in everyone to Shot at Jack Sports. We have Mr. Liam Sagarian with us today. He is our UFC guy, right? UFC guru at theeverydayfan.com. Go check out everything he writes. Liam knows his combat sports. Am I right, Liam?
I love a good fight. I love the business, the fight game, and I'm ready for a Mcgregor showdown tonight.
Yeah, but that's what we're talking. I mean, that's the. I mean, it was nice that there's going to be a third one, right? And these were real fights. These weren't, kind of bogus and one person's over the hill or the other person's getting the fight that they shouldn't. Like, these are real good fighters. This is a real good third fight, I think.
Yes, it's the most anticipated trilogy in UFC history until Conor McGregor inevitably has another trilogy with Nate Diaz. That'll top this one.
Oh, you
But
think so?
I do. But this is going to be awesome. I think Poirier made the right decision by going to have this trilogy fight with Conor, get the money, and I think when he takes home the victory tonight, then he goes and fights for the belt after he makes his money. You don't want to risk the chance of Conor either, jumping you in the rankings if you lose the title fight, or if he, falls into obscurity. You want that money bag fight that Conor's going to give you right now, right here, right now for that trilogy. So I think Poirier's got this master grand plan. I think he's focused. I think Conor's really focused. I just think it's going to be better than either of the first two fights were, which were both pretty good because they ended pretty quick, pretty decisive. I hope it's a long, drawn-out fight. It would be great.
Well, here's what's interesting. So I did a little bit of homework, right? Because I want to be able to have this conversation with you. I know you're the combat guy, right? So I watched all the fights. You can't really. The first fight was a typical McGregor fight, right? Knockout. He was very effective with his kick. He was actually he acted more as a martial artist to me in that fight. Okay, and he stood more athletically. Like, if you look at Conor in the first fight, he wasn't hunched over, right? He didn't look tired. He was very alert. And, they asked a Tom Brady this season why, instead of standing with his front foot forward, he kind of stands ready for the ball just like this. And he said it's a more athletic stance. And I feel like McGregor was able to work from different stances by not being hunched over in the first fight. Am I right a little,
No, I agree with you. But, I think you also have to take into account. So that first fight happened before Conor really rose to superstardom. He was going up, right? But he was still young, hungry, new, and slightly unproven. He was more of a mouth than an in-ring fighter. But that mouth was so good at getting into people's heads and playing mind games that it intimidated fighters before they even got into the ring with him. Fights were over with Conor at that point before they even started, just because of what Conor could do from the outside before the fight happened. And that was the thing with Poirier. You see what it's like before that first fight in 2014, his eyes right before. He was starstruck to be in that octagon with Conor McGregor, and it showed. His lights were out in 2 minutes. But I think you also have to take into account that was at a lighter weight division as well. They've both grown into the lightweight division from featherweight. And Poirier's record from here on out is more impressive, only with a couple losses, one including to Khabib. I think at this point he's just a better fighter. I think he's more well versed. I think he still has a drive and is still very hungry. Something I think Conor has lost a little bit of, and he could find it at any time for any camp for any reason. I'm not trying to discredit what he's done for this camp. He could very well prove me wrong tonight. But I think he's lost a little bit of the edge that he had back in 2014 when he put Dustin out in 2 minutes.
So so the second fight comes around, and again I noticed, as opposed to their first fight, right? As completely opposed, Conor boxed only. Like, he only boxed. He opened the first fight with a roundhouse kick, letting you know, like, hey man, I'm here. I'm here, and I don't care. You're upcoming, I'm upcoming, but I'm here. I always feel like when Conor McGregor opens the hips up early, that's when you know he's most explosive. He walked into that second fight only caring about boxing. What, did he throw 4 kicks, I noticed? And he wasn't very fast. He didn't care about the kicks he was taking to his legs. And, for me, that he stood like a boxer and he got hit like a boxer. I just don't believe he's going to be a boxer this time. It didn't work. He knows it didn't work. I think that uh you could say whatever. I've watched the man come into camp and shape and the man not to come in camp and shape, and I believe that Conor was drinking a lot before the second fight. That's my opinion. That face looks bloated. um and yes, he's not hungry for the money, but the one thing that any athlete gets upset about is an embarrassment.
Well, I'm sure he was embarrassed, and I'm sure he is embarrassed because he wants the belt again too. You know, it only helps his brand and his aura and place in history. But the whole thing with that second fight was, and he was even saying it in his interview with Stephen A. Smith earlier this week. He just wants to knock people out, right? He doesn't even count his submission losses, like his infamous one to Khabib. He says he doesn't count that. He's looking to knock people out. He thinks he only has one loss. His one loss by knockout to Dustin. So you know it bothers him. But if he knows that if the tactics he used last time aren't going to work, right? Who's to say that Dustin doesn't just try with the calf kicks again? Because that's what controlled fight too, right? Was the onslaught of calf kicks that McGregor couldn't either check or switch stances fast enough to try and get an upper hand, which he did have in the first round. He had a few good strikes in the first round that stunned Poirier a little bit, but his resiliency, he was able to pull through and recover from that pretty quickly before he could get knocked out himself again in round one. Um, I do think he's embarrassed, and I do think that he really wants to put Poirier's lights out. But like, is that drive to just put a heat-seeking missile on his face? Poirier has more tricks in the bag. I hope Conor is more on the defensive if he wants to knock Poirier out, because Poirier is going to be a more technical fighter in this fight. He has more things to offer as far as offensive versatility. So Conor's going to have his guard up and try and find that punch if he's just looking to knock people out. And you never know with Conor. He could just be all talk. Maybe he takes Dustin to the ground and just laughs at everybody. Ah, ha, 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 at the end. You think I really thought submissions didn't matter in the sport of MMA? Of course they do. But you never know what Conor you're going to get. I think he's going to be looking to knock Poirier out. I think Poirier knows that, and I think that he's going to fend against that fairly well.
So I'll tell you, I'm into, again, I don't know the fight game as well as you do. I did read your article, though, and it was a fantastic job in the everydayfan.com. As always, great job, right?
Thank you.
And but in learning, in reading it and going through it and learning it, I watched the 2 clips that you put in there. And it just, to me, I'm a body language guy. Whether you think you got it or you don't is nice. You have to believe you got it. And if you lose when you got, like, that's why I'm a big Masvidal guy, because he believes he's got it. He got knocked out. That's fine. But there wasn't one guy that wasn't like, he was like, I got it. And if you go into the fight and you get knocked out, then you got knocked out. Whatever, that happens. But if you don't walk in that ring believing you're the guy, and I just watched the YouTube clip, and Poirier put up his fist like this, and it was sunk down a little bit. I'm like, you don't believe this. That last one, you did believe. And maybe you're not, maybe you feel really good now. I just feel like, McGregor was so nice to him. He took the Louisiana Tabasco hot sauce, and it was a whole business thing. And what he was doing was he was being very nice to him, like he was to Cowboy Cerrone. I really believe that. And he knocked Cerrone out because he's not the same class. And I believe that there are too many people in the UFC that know that Conor McGregor is this explosive athlete. He really is. I don't know what sport he could have played, but he's an explosive athlete. I believe that at his athletic pinnacle, he's just better than Poirier.
That's where I disagree. I think right now, from a consistency basis, I think Dustin Poirier is better than Conor McGregor ever was. And I think Conor McGregor has this kind of allure in people's minds because of being that, coining the phrase champ and sitting on top of the cage with both belts on his shoulders. And taking the money fight against Floyd Mayweather and looking good through the first 4 rounds of that fight before Floyd got the timing down, right, of the boxing match. Conor McGregor is not one of these all-time greats as far as octagon performance as far as cold-blooded, ruthless nature. He's not a John Jones. John Jones or Khabib's record in the octagon is what Conor McGregor can do with his mouth and to promote the MMA. That's where Conor separates himself, right? That's where he got in the head of Poirier the first time. That's how he's able to stay relevant through losses to Khabib and to Poirier this past time in pretty decisive fashion. I think he's the only person who can main event a pay-per-view card without there having to be a title belt on the line. And that's not a credit to what he's done in the octagon. It's a credit to what he does as far as drawing attention to a sport that relies on attention. All combat sports do, right? It's about the pay-per-view buys. It's even down to professional wrestling. It's down to pay-per-view buys and watch rate.
It's Tyson-esque.
Right, exactly. So I think Poirier is a better fighter. I think he's more well-rounded. I think he's better equipped, and I think at this point he's more of a mentally tough fighter as far as octagon performances is concerned. It's not to say that Conor can't step in there. That octagon is his world. You know what I'm saying? But
Yeah.
Conor has other ventures, and I don't think it runs him. I don't think he has that Tom Brady, Michael Jordan type of love and passion. You get your money, you still come in year in, year out seeking championships. That's where Poirier is at. He wants that belt. He knows that he's the most clear-cut number one contender across all divisions in the UFC. He's the sixth best pound-for-pound fighter in the whole entire promotion, and he doesn't have a belt on his shoulder. Conor McGregor is the sixth best lightweight. Like, there's a difference in the classes of these two. And maybe it's because McGregor's taken time off, and maybe it's because of McGregor's high-profile losses. I don't think so. I just don't think he is all that was ever that he was cracked up to be in the octagon.
Well, I mean, Khabib. So Khabib, the McGregor losses to Khabib, in my opinion, if Khabib wrestled anybody, he beat them. I mean, that's just, if he gets you to the ground. First of all, Khabib can wrestle for 14 straight hours. They saw him wrestle in the gym. That's ridiculous. I don't know if he's got a larger heart. I don't know. But a human being should not be able to wrestle for 14 straight hours. So if he puts you on the ground, good luck. Good luck.
Yeah.
So those losses, I believe that Khabib put anybody on the ground. McGregor had to either knock him out or not go to the ground. Those are different kind of losses to me. Whereas when I watched that second fight, if he didn't kill the leg, which Conor got very concerned about and started not blocking the leg, started kind of guarding against it and got caught. I mean, Conor won round one just by boxing. And, round two, he started controlling, caught him with a couple shots. If that leg didn't die, Conor wins by points, right? He caught him with the better shots. I mean, he just did. And by the way, here's the other thing. If Conor does more of a UFC, this is the one thing that he makes a mistake with. And I don't think people give him enough credit for it. Conor's feet are huge. I mean, have you seen them?
They are big.
Those things are like, he can't fit in a Shaquille O'Neal size shoe. That foot is huge. And I've seen Poirier get hit with it a couple times, and he almost begs for Conor to not kick. Every time he gets hit with the foot, he's more worried about the foot than the hands. And if I saw that on tape, I bet Conor saw that on tape a little bit. That's what I'm willing to bet. The embarrassment will make him go back to where he began, is my point, It's very you're down in Philly, right?
I am.
Right. So that was the whole premise of Rocky, right? He just got too soft. He got too much money. The statue was erect. Everybody started patting him on his back. And then he got knocked out.
Rocky to me was never caught up in, was never more of a celebrity than a boxer. Conor to me is more of a celebrity than an MMA fighter at this point, and that's fine. He has his own whiskey. He has a ton of money. He has Dylan Dennis commenting on every single fighter's and ESPN MMA's posts, talking about how their fighters are trash and that he'll beat everyone, even though he's not a good fighter himself. Conor has the whole world, the whole MMA world on his shoulders, and he knows it, and that's good with him. He's always one high-profile win away from a championship fight, which is good for the business and bothersome to pretty much everybody else that I think is part of the business. But what are you going to do? He's Conor frickin' McGregor. it's just I think it's going to be a great